assistance with credit. I want to go ahead and continue the show here now with my next guests. We got two people in today from True Power Solutions of Tampa Bay. Got Heidi and Robert Snow, again, both of True Power Solutions of Tampa Bay. Mr. Robert Snow joined the True Power team a little more than 3 months ago and has 12 years of experience in the electrical field, ranging from residential homes to large-scale commercial projects. As a project manager, he must meet with contractors on walkthroughs for preliminary estimations, manage job costs and labor on various projects. He's joined in studio today with Heidi Honey, and she is new to the electrical contracting industry, but brings to True Power Solutions a customer service and business administration background. Heidi's role in receiving competitive bids, competitive pricing for goods is important to the company and enables True Power Solutions to pass the savings on to the company. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Jamie?
Very well. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Tell me a little bit more about True Power Solutions, its history, and what your company offers.
Well, thank you first and foremost, Jamie, for having us on the show. True Power is a state-licensed unlimited electrical contractor owned by a master electrician, Omar Mohammed, and we are currently proud member of the Independent Electrical Contractors. Our management team has over 35 years of combined experience, and currently our focus is in the commercial tenant build-outs as well as residential. We do anything from small electrical installations to large commercial.
Now, I noticed on your website that in 2013, 2014, the company True Power Solutions of Tampa Bay, Best of Tampa Award for Business Achievement. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yes, that is an award given out annually. The Tampa Bay Awards program identifies companies that I believe they have achieved exceptional marketing success within the community of Tampa Bay and brings good things as far as contractors and quality to the Tampa Bay area.
Now, your company name obviously says you cover the Tampa Bay region. What specifically is your service areas? What counties are you covering?
We will go anywhere in Central Florida, Pasco, Pinellas, Hernando, Hillsborough County. We will go out to Orlando for depending on what type of jobs.
Okay, and how many staff members and how many electricians do you have on within the company?
Currently, there are 8 team members, and we have 5 electricians out in the field and are growing every day.
Yeah, I know you've done a number of work for me, and you are very prompt and very responsive. I've got to take a quick break here, but coming back from the break, we'll be talking more with True Power Solutions of Tampa Bay. Got some specific questions on the electrical components of a home, some tips on, when you're out there in the real estate market on what you should be looking for with regard to the electrical system in your home, especially some of these older homes that we have here in the Tampa Bay region. So if you're just tuning in, you've been listening to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins, WHNZ. Back in a moment.
7218. You're listening to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show with local expert Jamie Meloni. Now, here's Jamie.
Hi again, everybody. Thanks for staying tuned in again to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins WHNZ. And again, you can find this show on every Mondays at noon, so I invite you to please tune in as my show aims to become your information source for the Tampa Bay real estate market. We've been talking here on this last segment here with True Power Solutions of Tampa Bay. I want to continue the discussion now with Robert Snow. He's an electrician out in the field. And Robert, a lot of the homes in our region are older and have outdated electrical components and wiring. Elaborate briefly for me on how modern homes differ, electrically from the older homes.
Okay, a lot of the older homes will have knob and tube wiring. They'll have some of the old cloth wiring. The fuse box is not. That's exactly what it is. It's a fuse box and not a breaker box. The problem with.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. The knob and tube. You hear that a lot, but what exactly does that mean? Knob and tube wire.
Knob and tube is like, picture it as power lines running through your attic. You've got a separate hot, and then about 6 inches away, you've got a neutral wire, and then they run through porcelain tubes when they cross through the studs. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is there's usually no grounding. The critters, they eat it up like cheese. It's not meant for insulated attics. It wasn't designed to be covered with insulation. It was more to be to where it doesn't heat up and overheat and causes a lot of fires. And
what year did this type of electrical wiring in practice go out? When was that used up till?
About the 1960s, 1950s. It was big back in the 1930s, and then they went to the cloth-style wiring, which doesn't have grounds. And then recently, within the 90s or so, they really started getting.
Now you mentioned the wires that have the cloth coverings. That just to me seems very dangerous, especially with electrical components. I mean, how did that ever make it to the marketplace?
Just trial and error.
Yeah, it just seems like, I mean, because today they're all coated with
the rubber and the
yeah,
insulated rubber. Yes.
Much safer and everything. Speak to me a little bit about, you mentioned the grounding wires, and now the electrical wire system has a 3-wire system, correct?
Yes, sir, it does. Basically, the way electrical works is the hot runs out and feeds the 120 to your outlet, and then the power comes back on the neutral. Well, with the ground, if you lose a neutral and you hit that, the electricity is going to travel through you, least resistance to get to ground, and it causes you to get electrocuted. What the ground is, it gives you an extra safety, an extra path for that electrical, that 120 volt or 220 to go to.
Yeah, and you mentioned 120 and 220 volts. I mean, the 120 is just basic, your plugs,
yeah,
correct?
Your basic house plug. Your 220 is more your dryer, your stove, things like that, your water heater.
Okay, and then the older homes also, you said, have fuse boxes, sort of like, I guess, what we see in a car. You pull the fuse out.
Yes.
Versus the breaker boxes today.
Actually, they're these little screw-in fuses, but they're very hard to find these days. As opposed to a breakers, if you blow a fuse, you're going to have to go to the store and buy a new fuse. When your breaker trips, you're able to reset it. Chances are your fuse boxes, your new breaker boxes come with 42 circuits available. Chances are your old style fuse box, you only have 12 slots, so a lot gets crowded on. And what they'll do is they'll take a spot where you had maybe a 20 amp fuse at one point, but you've only got the number 12 wiring. What they'll do is they'll throw a 40 amp fuse on that, but it doesn't solve the problem because now you've got 40 amps running on a number 12 wire, which will cause a lot of fires, cause that wire to heat up because that wire is not designed to handle that ampacity.
Now, a question I know I've asked many times, and I can never seem to keep it straight in my head. What is the difference between volts and amps? We talk about 120 volt service, and then we talk about amps in the breaker boxes. What's
okay?
that?
I'm going to give it to you. Think of it as like a plumbing pipe. The volts is the water pressure going through that pipe.
Okay.
The amperage would be the amount of water flowing through that.
Okay.
So the voltage would be, excuse me, the volt
Go ahead.
is the electrical push,
Mm-hmm.
and the amperage is as fast as that electric is moving.
Okay, so we talk about amps, we're talking about breaker boxes, and then
Yes.
the volts with regard to the wires and stuff. That's just a point I can never seem. You actually explained that pretty well. I think I could actually remember that now. Now, tell me, just because a home has this older wiring systems, the knob and tube, is that necessarily dangerous? I mean, is that something that needs to be addressed by homeowners?
Yes, I would say. I mean, as far as just for the simple reasons, your insurance rates are going to be better. Some insurance companies won't even insure you if you have knob and tube wiring. Safety, if you have kids, get the knob and tube replaced. The grounding's much better. The fuse boxes, everything today is much better. It's like driving around a 1950 Cadillac. Yeah, it might look good, it might be all polished up, but your gas isn't. Your gas rate, get you a newer car, get you something safer.
Yeah, and you mentioned the insurance component. Whenever we resell properties, these older homes are going to require, the insurer is going to require what's called a 4-point inspection, and one of the components of that inspection is the electrical systems of the house, and if it's outdated at the transfer of the property, you're going to have to, get that taken, care of. And everything, and something that I, always stress to buyers that they consider the importance of having an electrical inspection done in addition to their basic home inspection. Keep in mind, a home inspection when you do on a property is just a guy who's looking at everything from a very broad standpoint. So if it's an older home, you definitely want to consider having an electrical inspection done. Now, tell me a little bit about what you do in an electrical inspection and what a cost for that may be.
We do electrical inspections for $150. We'll come out to your house. We'll open up your panel. The difference between us and a home inspector is we're going to open up your panel. We know what to look for. We're going to check your service entrance cable or check to see if it has any nicks. We're going to check the connections on the wires to the breakers. A lot of home inspectors will not check that and open up the panel. They'll look and maybe see burn marks, or I'm looking for corrosion. I'm looking to see if the screws are torqued down on the wires. That causes a lot of electrical fires, because if that connection's not tight, it's going to spark and eventually cause a fire. Things like that. We're looking for proper grounding. We open up the AC, the air handler. We kind of we go more in depth and look at it. We're going to do if you got a roofer at your house, you're not going to call a plumber to, inspect your roof. You're going to want.
Yeah, it's a tip I give to a lot of to home buyers on these older homes, make sure you're getting somebody outside of just your textbook home inspector, taking a look at these homes for the electrical components. Now, when you have to have a home rewired, I mean, how extensive of a cost is that? I mean, is that something that's going to cost tens of thousands or 5,000-6,000? For a basic 1,500 square foot home? I mean, what's the time frame and cost roughly on something like that?
I mean, it varies. It varies. We got to look into attic access and things like that. I mean, you're looking typically between $5,000 to $10,000.
5 and 10. And how hard is it to, with these existing homes to fish the wires to the walls? I mean, do you have to destroy or tear up any walls to do this?
If it's regular drywall, it's fairly easy. It's not that bad. When you get into the old plaster walls, that's a little. You better have a good drywall guy on hand, which we do. We hired a specific drywall guy for that purpose, but.
Yeah, you all just actually rewired one of my homes recently, one of my bank-owned properties, not one of my personal homes, and I think it was like $6,000. And it takes a couple of days, correct, as well?
Yes, sir, it does. To be thorough, we go out there and we want to give you a great quality job. We don't just look in and say, here, give us a paycheck. We want to give you a high quality product. Well, when we do a home inspection, we'll go through, we'll look at everything, we'll take pictures, and we'll also give you a price to repair that certain item on there. I'm going to
say a question that always just came to mind. When a breaker in a home consistently trips, is that an indication that you just need a larger breaker, or is that can that be an indication of a larger problem by chance?
That's an indication. A lot of people think, we got a 20 amp breaker tripping, we're going to slap a 30 on there. That's not the case. That can cause you serious problems. If you have too much overloaded on the circuit, don't throw a 30 amp breaker on there. First of all, the wire's not rated to handle 30 amps. Second of all, a lot of things, you might have a dead short, or you might have a loose wire that's tripping, so it's always good to have that checked out by a licensed.
Yeah, because I see that fix put into place by a lot of the handymen. They say, I'll just get a larger breaker and put in there, but it just popped into my head, and that's probably a symptom of something larger, and that's really not the correct fix, correct?
No, you're absolutely correct.
And do you see, Eddie, what are some of the common issues you see with today's homes, the modern homes? Any things that you're seeing out there in the marketplace?
The problems we tend to find are high volume residential neighborhoods where they're throwing them up as quick as the problem with that is you get a lot of contractors, they do piecework in there, and they come in, and what that means is they get paid as opposed by the hour, they get paid by the job. Well, what they're doing is they're running through your home, wiring it, so you might find 2 years from now you have a bunch of plugs that don't work because the connections were not tight, because they simply just didn't take the time to do it right and put personal care into your
home. And,
yes,
and it's a very good point. Got to wrap up here. Some great information, and this company comes highly recommended here by the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show. They've done a number of jobs for me. Great segment. Real quick, how can my listeners get in touch with you off the air?
Yes, they can call the office. It's 813-971-TRUE. That's 813-971-TRUE, which is 971-8783.
And you also have a website, correct?
Yes, sir. TruePowerSolutions.biz.
All right. Some great information. Thank you very much, Robert, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jamie.
And thank you very much, Heidi, for being on the show as well.
Thank you.
And again, you've been listening here to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show.